Ethan Marlowe had always been called a coward. At 15, he'd hide when the school fire alarms rang. At 22, he ducked during a bar fight while everyone else charged in. Now, standing on the observation deck of orbital station Helios, he felt that same familiar panic, but on a scale he'd never imagined. Below, Earth spun, oblivious to the approaching threat. The sensors had picked up a fleet, alien, massive, and clearly hostile. Warnings flashed red across every screen, and the station's commander, Darius Keene, barked orders that made Ethan's stomach churn. Prepare defenses. Shields to maximum. All personnel to combat stations. Ethan's heart pounded. He didn't want to die. But that was just it. He couldn't face what others did without freezing. As Keene's voice roared through the intercom, Ethan's eyes darted toward the emergency escape pods. They were small, cramped, barely enough for one. He hesitated, every fiber of him screaming cowardice. Then a siren blared. The alien fleet had decloaked. Dark, sleek shapes hovered above the atmosphere, blocking sunlight, shimmering with energy. The station shook as the first beams struck Helios' outer hull. People screamed, weapons fired, alarms blared. Everyone ran toward battle stations. Except Ethan. He made a choice. One that terrified him, yet felt strangely logical. He sprinted past the chaos, diving into an escape pod. Hands shaking, he pressed the launch sequence. The pod shot into space, leaving Helios to its fate. Floating above Earth, alone, Ethan stared at the destruction below. Cities burned. Satellites shattered. Humanity's mighty defenses seemed futile. And yet, as he drifted, he realized something. The alien fleet hadn't fully deployed their attack pattern. Something in their movement suggested they hadn't accounted for small, unexpected maneuvers, like a single, unarmed pod flying straight at them. For the first time, the coward felt a spark. Not bravery, not courage, but clarity. If he could survive, maybe he could see something others couldn't. Ethan's pod drifted silently above Earth, the planet spinning beneath him like a fragile marble. In the cockpit, holographic displays flickered with streams of data. Alien ships glided in formation, sleek and terrible, their weapons dormant for the moment but ready to strike. Ethan's hands shook as he adjusted the pod's trajectory. His mind raced. "If I get too close, I die," he muttered. "If I stay too far, I'm useless. I have to find the gap." He remembered what his simulator drills had taught him. Alien fleets, no matter how advanced, had patterns. Predictable ones. Humans had always underestimated fear-driven thinking, reactive, evasive, and desperate, but it was exactly that mindset that gave him an advantage. He tapped a sequence into the control panel, zooming in on a cluster of enemy satellites. "That's it," he whispered. "The relay hub. If I take that out, maybe I don't have to fight them directly." Time stretched. Ethan's breath fogged the cockpit glass. Every nerve screamed panic. But the fear, strangely, sharpened him. Unlike the soldiers charging headfirst into blaster fire, Ethan could think 2 steps ahead. Below, Earth's atmosphere glimmered under sunlight. He glanced at a newsfeed hologram, showing human squadrons engaging the enemy. Explosions dotted the upper atmosphere, tiny sparks against the vast canvas of space. The pilots were brave, almost recklessly so, but almost every feed cut off after a few seconds. Deaths, losses, chaos. And still, Ethan drifted, unarmed, alone. "Coward," he muttered again. "Always coward. But maybe it's useful." Minutes passed, stretched into eternity as he mapped the enemy grid. Every alien ship, every satellite, every patrol route. He realized something astonishing. The fleet wasn't perfect. It had blind spots, areas where their sensors overlapped poorly, spaces between patrols. A human might never notice, but a coward, watching from a distance, might. Ethan plotted a route. Each move was a risk. One wrong calculation, one sensor sweep, and he'd be vaporized. He checked the pod's limited fuel supply and adjusted his plan. "I can't fight," he admitted to himself. "I can only dodge, and strike where it hurts most." The first step: reach the relay hub without being detected. His pod twisted and darted, weaving through shadows cast by alien cruisers. He held his breath as a patrol drone passed a few meters away, its scanning lights probing, almost brushing the hull. Ethan pressed himself into the shadows of a massive ship, counting each second until the scanner moved on. And then he saw it, the relay hub, a cluster of satellites orbiting just outside the main fleet. It was vulnerable, unprotected by the larger ship's weapon arrays. A single, precise strike here could disrupt the entire fleet's coordination. The thought made him dizzy. I could actually save Earth? His own voice sounded foreign, tinged with disbelief. Cowardice had brought him this far, running, hiding, avoiding confrontation. And now, for the first time, it gave him a chance to do something heroic. But fear, relentless as always, reminded him. One mistake, and he would die alone in the void. He gripped the controls tighter, knuckles white. He imagined the reports back on Earth. Heroes battling alien fleets, brave soldiers dying to protect their planet, while the one who ran first stayed invisible. He allowed himself a tiny smirk. "Not brave," he whispered. "Just smart. And lucky. That's all it takes." As Ethan charted his path toward the relay hub, he noticed the subtle patterns in the alien formation, the angles, the patrol rotations, even the timing of energy pulses. His cowardice had made him careful, observant, calculating. Every instinct honed to survival became a weapon in itself. 4 hours, he floated in silence, making minute adjustments. Small victories accumulated, dodged scans, avoided energy pulses, stayed out of line of sight. Each one reinforced his confidence, though fear never fully left. It was always there, lurking behind every panel and display. By the time he approached the hub, night had fallen over parts of Earth. The lights of cities glimmered faintly, oblivious to the war above. Ethan's hands were steady now. He was still terrified, but more than that, he was focused. The coward had become a strategist, a ghost among giants, preparing for a strike no hero could attempt so far from the battlefield. And in that moment, floating in the void, Ethan Marlowe understood something crucial. Sometimes running first wasn't weakness. Sometimes it was survival. Sometimes it was the first step toward saving everything. Ethan Marlowe's pod floated like a shadow among the alien fleet, a single human speck in a sea of machines. The relay hub lay ahead, a cluster of satellites orbiting in precise alignment, seemingly innocuous, but Ethan knew their true purpose. They coordinated every energy beam, every patrol, every movement of the alien fleet. Destroy them, and the entire formation would falter. The pod's lights dimmed automatically to avoid detection. Ethan's fingers hovered over the controls, trembling. His heartbeat thudded so loudly it almost drowned out the hum of the pod's engines. This is it, he thought. I can't screw this up. One wrong move and gone. Ahead, a patrol drone glided silently between the satellites, scanning the void. Ethan held his breath, every muscle coiled. When the drone's lights swept past without noticing him, he exhaled slowly, almost audibly. A tiny victory, but each small success built his confidence. The coward's carefulness, his instinct to avoid danger, had become a weapon. "Okay, Marlowe," he muttered to himself. "Step 1, approach. Step 2, hack. Step 3, chaos." He maneuvered the pod carefully, using the satellite's shadows to hide his approach. The cluster loomed closer with every calculated move. Ethan's hands moved on autopilot, inputting codes, checking energy pulses, and monitoring alien scanning patterns. Every second stretched into minutes. Too slow, he thought. Too fast, and I'm toast. He reached the first satellite, its surface smooth and dark against the void. Tools clicked and whirred as he connected his hacking module. Sparks flew, tiny flashes that might have been seen by any nearby alien observer. Ethan's stomach knotted. Come on, come on. The system resisted. Alien encryption was sophisticated, far beyond human standards, yet somehow, in his desperation, Ethan found the weak points. One small error in the fleet's programming, a sequence overlooked, gave him an opening. He exploited it, fingers shaking, eyes wide. And then, a warning pulse. A shock wave of energy flared from the satellite, almost tipping his pod off course. Ethan ducked instinctively, heart in his throat, then recalibrated. Too close. Sweat ran down his temples. He pressed the final sequence. The satellite exploded in a silent, dazzling burst of light, fragments scattering into the void. Ethan pushed the pod back as far as the engines would let him, hiding behind another satellite cluster. He watched, breathless, as his small act rippled outward. A chain reaction began. The relay hub's destruction scrambled communications among the alien ships. Patrols collided. Energy beams misfired. Massive cruisers were forced into evasive maneuvers. Chaos spread faster than any human fleet could have induced. Ethan floated, trembling, adrenaline surging through him. "I did it," he whispered. "I actually did it." But celebration was brief. Sensors pinged, more patrol drones closing in, scanning systematically for intruders. The fleet had adapted faster than he anticipated. His pod shook as a nearby ship's energy beam grazed the hull. Sparks flew inside the cockpit, lights flickering. He could feel the vibrations in his chest as the pod systems struggled to compensate. "Focus," he muttered, voice tight. "No heroics. Move. Marlowe. Just move." He twisted and darted through the debris field, narrowly avoiding beams and fragments. Each maneuver relied on instinct, on the fear that had always governed him. Unlike soldiers, he didn't charge forward blindly. He dodged, flanked, and misled. The coward's mind became a battlefield advantage. Through the chaos, he targeted another satellite, smaller, less defended. His hands moved faster now, confidence building with each successful strike. "Every fragment I destroy weakens them," he thought. "Every blind spot I exploit makes Earth safer." By the time he completed the second strike, the alien fleet was in disarray. Energy grids misaligned, cruisers collided, and patrols lost synchronization. From a safe distance, Ethan could see the ripples of destruction radiating outward, the silent victory of a single human against a vast, superior enemy. He floated for a moment, chest heaving, staring at the chaos he had wrought. The coward had become a strategist, invisible and deadly without firing a single weapon of his own. And yet, fear still gripped him. "This isn't over. They'll adapt. They'll come for me next." He set his pod on a new course, deeper into the fleet, seeking the final target. One mistake now, one overlooked sensor, and the entire mission would fail. But for the first time, fear was no longer paralyzing. It sharpened him. It guided him. It had transformed cowardice into survival, and survival into something almost heroic. Ethan Marlowe, the man who ran first, had struck first. And he knew the next strike might be even more dangerous. But there was no turning back now. Ethan Marlowe's pod spun silently among the wreckage of the alien formation. The first strike had worked, but it had come at a cost. The fleet was now aware that something, or someone, was interfering. Alarm pulses flashed across his cockpit, warning him of scanners sweeping his path. Panic rose like a tide, but this time he didn't let it freeze him. He had learned to move with fear, not against it. "Keep it together, Marlowe," he muttered. "One wrong move and it's over." The pod twisted sharply to avoid a burst of energy that seared through space where he had been a heartbeat ago. Shards of destroyed satellites glimmered like stars around him, each fragment a silent threat. He ducked behind a larger debris cluster, holding his breath as alien drones swept past, oblivious, or maybe deliberately searching, testing patterns. Below him, Earth's cities twinkled faintly, unaware of the war above. Humanity had scrambled its remaining forces after the first strike, but entire fleets had been annihilated in the opening attacks. Ethan felt a pang of guilt, the kind only a survivor could carry. The brave humans were dying while he floated in a pod, alive but alone. His cowardice had saved him, yes, but at what cost? A warning light flashed on the pod's console. A massive alien cruiser had locked onto his location. The engines screamed as Ethan dove the pod into the shadow of a drifting derelict, narrowly avoiding a beam that would have turned him into cosmic dust. His mind raced. "I can't fight them head-on. Not me. Not now." He scanned the fleet's formation, noting changes. The aliens were learning, adapting, reorganizing. His previous tactics might not work twice, but in the chaos of battle, even a coward could find opportunity. He spotted a secondary relay node, smaller, lightly guarded, with a perfect angle for an approach. Hitting it could delay the fleet further, buying more time for Earth's defenses to reorganize. Ethan took a shaky breath and maneuvered toward it. Every twist and turn was a gamble, but he had to trust the instincts honed by fear. A miscalculation, and he'd be destroyed. He ducked behind a satellite just as a patrol drone passed, lights scanning like searching eyes. Sweat ran down his face, but his hands moved with precision now, muscles remembering instinctively what his brain feared. As he approached the relay, he noticed the pattern. The alien ships were overcompensating for the first strike. Their movements were erratic, and a small window had opened. He exploited it, gliding past patrols with calculated jerks of the thrusters, each one a tiny victory in a game of survival. Finally, he reached the relay node. Tools connected, sparks flying, and he set the sequence to overload the system. The pod shook as energy discharged, lighting up the void like miniature lightning. Ethan's stomach lurched. A misfire here would have spelled instant death. The relay exploded silently, sending shock waves through the fleet's communication grid. Ships collided as orders failed to transmit, and the aliens' formation began to unravel. Ethan's chest heaved. Fear still pulsed through him, but now it carried a strange satisfaction. Survival had become power. But there was no time to celebrate. A cruiser had detected the relay explosion and was moving straight toward him. The pod's engines flared as he dove, twisting through debris, narrowly escaping another lethal beam. Panic surged, but he embraced it, letting it guide him. Every instinct sharpened, every fearful reflex now a tool of survival. Through the chaos, Ethan realized something profound. His fear, the thing that had haunted him his entire life, had saved Earth in ways no hero could have predicted. The fleet's disruption bought humanity time to evacuate cities, deploy orbital defenses, and regroup scattered forces. Yet, he also knew the cost. Brave humans were dying down there, while he survived in isolation. Cowardice had granted him life, but it also demanded a burden, witnessing the aftermath of heroism without participating. A strange mix of relief and guilt churned in his chest. Ethan's pod drifted to a temporary safe zone, hidden behind a massive alien cruiser. He let himself breathe, long and slow, the first moment of calm in hours. He looked back at Earth, glowing faintly in the distance. Survival had a price, but he had bought the world a chance. For the first time, he understood something vital. Running first wasn't just about living. It was about observing, calculating, and knowing when to strike. The coward, who avoided the front lines, could also be the one to shape the battle from the shadows. But the fleet was still hunting him, adapting. One more mistake, and all would be lost. Ethan pressed the pod's controls tighter, eyes focused, mind alert. He had survived the first chaos, but the final strike, the one that could end the alien threat, was still ahead. And the coward who had saved himself first now faced the ultimate test, to act where fear could either paralyze him or make him humanity's unlikely savior. Ethan Marlowe's pod drifted silently in the wrecked remains of the alien fleet. The chaos he had unleashed gave Earth's forces a precious advantage, but it had also painted a target on his back. Every warning light, every sensor ping, reminded him. The aliens were adapting. They were hunting him now. Fear clawed at his chest. His hands gripped the controls until they ached. "This is it, Ethan," he whispered. "No more hiding. No more running. One mistake, and it's over." He glanced at the holographic display. The alien command ship loomed ahead, massive and imposing, almost impossibly large, pulsing with energy. All the fleet's remaining forces revolved around it. This was the brain of the invasion, the source of coordination. Strike here, and the fleet might collapse completely. Fail, and humanity would lose everything. "Why me?" Ethan muttered aloud. The coward in him shrank at the thought, the terror nearly paralyzing. But fear had taught him one thing: survival required calculation, not heroics. If he could reach the command ship undetected, he might be able to turn the tide without engaging in direct combat. He adjusted the pod's trajectory, hugging the shadows of drifting debris from destroyed satellites and cruisers. Every movement was slow, precise, deliberate. His mind scanned the ship's defenses, noting weak points, patrol patterns, and energy pulse timing. Hours of observation, of careful avoidance, had prepared him for this moment. The coward's instincts were now the most valuable weapons he possessed. A patrol drone swept by, its scanners humming. Ethan held his breath as it passed, barely a meter away. His heart raced, but he forced his mind to remain calm. Focus. Small movements. Predictable patterns make you visible. Be unpredictable. Finally, he reached the command ship's outer hull. It was a monstrous construct, bristling with weaponry, its surface glowing with alien energy. Ethan's fingers hovered over the docking clamps. One wrong move, one misjudged angle, and the pod would be shredded. He pressed the sequence, and the pod attached itself silently. Tools extended from the pod, robotic arms working with precise motions to breach the hull. Sparks flew, tiny arcs of light in the void. Inside, he accessed the ship systems, scanning for the central energy core. Every sequence required intense concentration. Every misstep could trigger alarms. Almost there. Almost there. The command center appeared on the display. The alien fleet's movements, communications, and energy grids, all controlled from this node. If he could disrupt it, the fleet would collapse. He initiated the cascade sequence, fingers trembling, sweat running down his temples. Alarms blared faintly, but the command ship hadn't detected the breach yet. Suddenly, a sensor sweep passed across the pod. Ethan ducked instinctively, heart hammering. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, the sweep moved on. The cascade began. Energy grids flickered, weapons misfired, and cruisers collided in the void. The alien fleet faltered, retreating as chaos rippled outward. The human forces, regrouped and reinforced, seized the opportunity to strike back. Ethan exhaled slowly, hands trembling. He had done it. The coward had become a savior, though no one on Earth yet knew it. He had acted not out of bravery, but out of fear, and that fear had guided him to survival, strategy, and victory. The pod disengaged and floated free, drifting toward Earth. He looked at the planet below, battered but still alive. Humanity had survived, thanks to a coward who ran first, observed quietly, and struck precisely. Ethan allowed himself a small, ironic smile. The coward label had followed him all his life, yet it had never been more accurate, or more useful. Fear had kept him alive long enough to change the course of an entire invasion. As he descended toward the orbital command station, messages from human fleets poured in. Hails of victory, news of retreating aliens, reports of coordinated defense successes. Few would know the full story. Few would know that a single human, terrified and trembling, had walked the line between death and survival to give them a chance. And yet, for Ethan, that was enough. Cowardice had saved him, and in saving himself, he had saved the world. Survival, he realized, was not weakness. It was intelligence. It was strategy. It was the first step toward heroism. Floating above Earth, Ethan felt a strange sense of calm. The battle was over. For now. Humanity lived. And the world owed its continued existence to a man who ran first, who feared, and who acted when bravery might have failed. He didn't feel like a hero. But as the pod entered the orbital station's docking bay, Ethan Marlowe understood the truth. Sometimes the coward survives, not by fleeing, but by thinking, calculating, and knowing when to strike. And sometimes that survival is the greatest gift a human could give.